Oh,
Thursday. Welcome. How you doing, Luke?
Yeah, it's good. I'm good. Not really fine over here at the moment in Adelaide. We are absolutely drenched. I think we've got our winter on, so I've got my jumper, and you've got your summer, so you're wearing your jumper. But
yeah, we're basically about the same.
I think we've got colours too, which is a bit embarrassing, but
yeah, I tell you, over here, it's so obviously I'm in the UK in Cambridge. So for those that don't know, yeah, we kind of put this project together, sort of split around the world, and since lockdown, our lockdown has sort of begun. We've actually had really nice weather over here, which is not usual for spring. It's spring rains are a thing, but we've had 2 weeks of really beautiful, and when I say I'm definitely becoming a local, because it's like still 15-16 degrees and we're saying how warm it is, but beautiful sun, lots of like golden hazy sunsets every night, just been great. But the last couple of days, the traditional gloom has come back in, grey, drizzle, rain, and not nearly as much fun being stuck inside.
We've managed to get out a bit. I mean, some of the pictures you've been posting up on the grams has been pretty jealous of, really. We're starting to get into rain, and you've got these beautiful, lovely, sunsets everywhere with long-nosed 911s and
it's been
Alpines
cool.
And
it's really this time it really makes you think, because obviously we work in the industry, and Instagram doesn't stop, websites don't stop, and just sitting here scratching our heads going, all right, how can we create some images, some content that's new? And really I've come down to begging, borrowing, stealing some cars, bringing them home, cleaning them, taking photos, whatever you can.
Because that's just not been for fun or for SCS. That's kind of like day jobby work for you at the moment. Hey.
Yeah. It is. So a few brands we work with, they obviously need fresh content, and obviously it's whilst we can leave our homes, I've been very nervous to do so in a professional capacity. I think if someone sees you out, running a photo shoot somewhere public, it's probably not a good look. So we've tried to obviously do what I can at home, and it's been interesting. A lot of stuff I've tried, in terms of product photography and things like that, because the regular studios that do it are all closed. So I usually do events and things like that, and motorsport and cars, and suddenly there's been a few sort of crash course lessons in, all right, how do I turn my lounge room into a studio and sort of replicate what these pros do. Cool.
Yeah, well, you shot some stuff for Wrigley Monkey Brewery, didn't you? Which was pretty cool, like some big steins. Which did you have to drink it?
We did. But the problem with that is quite boring. Is that the head on the beer, for the photos, you need to have like a good head on the beer. But you spend 10 or 15 minutes trying to set the shot up and play with the lighting, and then the head gradually goes flat, so you have to keep topping it up. And anyway, but yes, did drink the beer. So how's it going back in little old Adelaide?
Yeah, good. We've kind of got good news story out of coronavirus. We've had 7 days of no new cases, which is pretty cool. So everyone's pretty itchy, I think, to get back to normality and ease restrictions and get back into it. I'm a bit more nervous about it. I'm a bit more hesitant to try and lift that kind of stuff, and just kind of keep continuing as we are for a little bit. I think we've seen a little bit of resurgence in other countries of second waves and stuff. So, keep the borders closed, keep bobbing around, and off we go. Because it's been pretty miserable weather too. There hasn't been too much exciting stuff happening. Drove the 33 wagon, took my son out to the driving range the other day.
Fantastic.
Interestingly, the golf clubs wouldn't fit in the work Fiesta that I've got. I've got a Ford Fiesta. They wouldn't fit in the boot. It was only back seat. So good old Alpha 33 wagon came to the rescue and took that down in, fitted the clubs perfectly sideways in the boot, which is great.
Your 33 wagon, when I'm home next, we need to do a road trip to the Victorian Alpine regions in snow and recreate one of those amazing photo shoots, that the Alpha factory did in the the 80s with the skiers in the fluoro. Like, it'd just be the best.
It'd be amazing. Yeah, we have to do that. I'd have to pull off the rally tires though.
Yes.
I've got MRF gravel rally tires on the moment, which look baller but you're driving anything over 40 k's an hour is just non-stop, and it literally rattles your fillings out of your teeth. Just drony, and I wouldn't drive it to Melbourne like that. But no, I do have a set of like 13-inch performance 5-star wheels, as opposed to the Compomotives, which are on there. I should probably put a photo of it up. But yeah, like that'd probably be a bit more period correct with some, 75 or 85 section tires on it or something like that.
Amazing. It's all about the dress, the parachute pants, and the full tracksuit. I think is the way to go.
Well, we had a full tracksuit. We had a Beta Birdwood that we ran it in last year, which was good. So Beta Birdwood is a event that we have in Adelaide where we go from basically the beaches near where you lived before you moved to Cambridge. And basically drive from there up to the National Motor Museum in Birdwood. So it's kind of I'd never done the event before. I've sat on the side of the road and looked at cars going past and waved at them and things like that. So they run 2 on alternative years, and there's one that's up to 85 now, which my wagon just crept in. And I kind of did a little bit of a shoggy with it. They're very...
Of course not.
No.
Of course not.
The car has to be period as such, with any modifications that are on the car. And I've got a set of Compomotive MO5s on there.
Yeah.
15-inch, which you can argue if they were period or not. It's one of those things. But I managed when I got questions on it, it must have been some old bloke having his whiskey and, it don't look like very original wheels to me. And, so I ended up getting a photo of Quattro rally cars of the era with very similar looking wheels. And said, look, they're on the Quattro rally cars, and they're the same model wheel. And so I managed to stick that one through, and we did. I'll try and find a picture of it, but
it's actually a really cool event that I really want to come back and do it. I think it'd be fantastic. And now I've been lucky in the UK to get involved in some of the more vintage and veteran type stuff over here too. And so they run the Beta Birdwood Classic, but the Beta Birdwood for was it pre-1940 something or other cars, old stuff. Never really took it much interest in it when I lived there, but now I really want to go and do that. I want to find someone that has an old vintage car, and it's just a lot of fun. You just pack into it with your mates, and
well, I mean, that was
drive, and
that was the appeal for us. It would be good. I mean, I'd like to do it in an older car. Dad's got a couple of Fiat Milicentos that would be cool to do it in. A little bit rusty, but we'll see. Maybe one day. But the appeal for me was to be able to take the family on it and just kind of have a cool day out. We ended up kind of a picture-y thing. I'll bring this in. We kind of got dressed up in period dress. So I have a lovely set of happy pants that we got at Oyen. Was it an Oyen? Was it Oyen?
Yeah, that's right. That was on the way to Bathurst at the 12 hours. That was like $2.
Yeah, that was the best. So wore those, wore a Run DMC t-shirt and kind of 80s it up a bit. And there wasn't really many people dressed up as 80s. I think I might need to go that parachute gear next year. Try and get a full like silky purple and green parachute tracksuit or something like that. Maybe like one of those period Adidas jumpers that everyone had in like the late 80s. It would be pretty cool.
Yeah, the stuff that you yourself you just were embarrassed to wear, and then now I'm like, actually that'd be pretty rad.
wish I kept that.
Anyway, whatever. So
so that's really what's been happening.
Mate,
not too much.
The idea of just events, of going to an event, of going to anything at the moment would be amazing. Is it just me, or whenever you see pictures of events? I saw some images of the beach on Copacabana in like the 1970s, but it's the same as when you see these modern, and you see all these people together and close, and it just started unsettling me. I felt uncomfortable, and I was like, oh man, like the first time I'm with a group of more than 2 or 3 people is going to be Yeah, I can't wait, but it's also going to be quite unsettling, I think.
Yeah. Should I come close to you? Should I do anything? I mean, it was interesting. You were probably listening to the same podcast, but I was listening to the Smoking Tire this morning on the way into work, and they had Ted on there, and it was just like a really interesting discussion about St. Moritz and some of the events that were happening, and they were kind of like the first hit ones. I think I remember that was like.
Well, I was there. I was there for that.
Yeah.
That event they were talking about, the Icecore, and at the time, I'm embarrassed to say, I look back at some of my posts I put on Instagram at the time, and it just dates so quickly because Italy had just gone into lockdown, and at the time I was like, "Nah, mate, we'll be fine. It's all overblown. Don't worry." You know, and the ice Concord was cancelled a few days before I was due to fly out, but there was some chatter around social media that everyone was going to go anyway, and I thought, you know what, this could be the coolest thing in the world. I need to go. And yeah, St. Moritz was great. Really, there was you didn't know in the town. There was no change. There was no social distancing. I didn't even really know what social distancing meant. I drove through Italy from Milan. I drove up around Lake Como. I was quite careful in Italy. I just went straight to my hotel. I stayed. I left early the next morning. I didn't eat in Italy. Took those precautions. But in Switzerland, it was fine. We went to cafes, went to restaurants. We drank beer. There was literally just this cancelled event, on the frozen lake, and they had the marquees set up. They had the course where you see all the famous photos of the 250s and the Ferraris all drifting. They had the course set up. They had the grandstand and cancelled, and it was really bizarre because the place was full of people. There were people everywhere, yet this event had been cancelled, and the weather was beautiful, and we're just walking around sort of scratching our heads going like, why was this cancelled? This is an overreaction. It's fine. And I then the next day went driving, did a day driving in the Alps, and just had the best trip on my own. And then like a week or two later, you sort of look back, and now I look back at what I posted, and it's absolutely cringeworthy. You're just like, oh my God. And I guess that's the problem with the world, is that everyone, no one really understood it, and had, did we know now what we, wouldn't have gone. But,
yeah, I guess. Well, I mean, Switzerland have been one of those countries that have kind of left social distancing alone and not even enforced it, really, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, the thing that was frustrating was the reason the event got cancelled was because the government banned all events of more than 500 people like 2 days before. But in France at the time, and I guess you look at the statistics and the curves and you see what happened in France versus what's happened in Switzerland. But France at the time had only banned events. They'd only banned indoor events. So, obviously the Swiss, is just over the border. So everyone's sort of going like, if this event was just over the border, it could still go on. And, but of course now you look at what's happened, and that's why they did it.
And you kind of go, well, that was a good idea.
Yeah. So, well. Yeah, but it's such a bizarre time over here. It's there's so much, what they're reporting in the media, I get the impression is not what's actually going on. Anecdotally, I'm hearing stories coming out of friends that have people working in the NHS, in the National Health Service over here, and it sounds absolutely terrifying. It sounds in this disease, reports that it actually, it leaves permanent damage on people, nervous system damage, like, people don't fully recover in the health system. But from our point of view, that is being kept completely out of the media. It's just a case of just stay inside, and literally everything is closed. You can't even really get a coffee up here in Cambridge at the moment, which is it's just crazy times to live in. I think we'll look back at this now and just with some incredulity. Amazing.
Yeah, well, I mean, it kind of made me think about events and what we had and what we were doing, and kind of made me think about burger meat and
burger meat,
how that could no way possibly happen right now. But
nah.
Do you want to explain burger meat? Because it was kind of like,
I mean,
it was our baby, but it was kind of like your idea at the start, really.
Yeah, it was. So we ran this blog called Any Given Reason, which I guess is, what would you call it, Luke? Sportscaster Safari -1. It was the early iteration of a web blog when blogs before sort of Instagram existed, and everyone was blogging. Yeah,
I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but from not being the one who started it or created it or really did any input to it until right near the end, was like it was your way of being able to publish and learn and write and create without needing to be a part of a magazine or be a part of a website or get that thing in there.
Exactly. How it initially started was, and this is, to be honest, this is how photography started for me, really, because I wanted to get out to motor racing and to get out to rallies and to get press accreditation at rallies. And I quickly worked out that photographers get the best view of at any motorsport event.
Well, plate marshals get pretty good, but I don't.
No, but they have to wave flags. we can go and take photos.
They have to pay attention.
Exactly. And I sort of initially worked out that, okay, well, if no one's going to publish my work, I'll just publish it myself.
Yeah.
And then that was enough to get the accreditation. And then it kind of became this great thing that actually it was a really good ticket into meeting some incredible people and having some great experiences. And it was just such a cool, it was a lot of work. Don't get me wrong. I was putting in 3-4 evenings a week after work of doing it. And it was a lot of work, but it's just a great excuse to meet some amazing people and experience some great cars. And then the idea for Burger Meat kind of came when we had this.
It kind of, at any given reason, was kind of very Adelaide central, South Australian focused. A little bit like you did some interstate stuff, but it was like covering the local Motorcana events and the local car shows and all that kind of stuff.
Very, very grassroots. The idea for Burger Meat was like, well, we've got all these people, like, let's just get them together for a meet, in a car park as you did back in the day. And well, what do we do? 5 of them, 6 of them, 7 of them, something like that. And
I honestly don't remember. I think the last one. I think 7. 6. Hang on. What have I got on my wall?
Yeah, there's
Burger Meat 7. That was the last one, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I've got. Hang on. I'll
try and move your camera without ending the whole.
I've got. We did this really cool thing near the end. Yeah. So that one there's Burger Meat. Oh, hang on, if I can do my fingers right. That one there's Burger Meat 5, and that one there's Burger Meat 7. So that was kind of 7 was the last one, and that was Tom that designed that poster, wasn't it?
I wasn't there for that one. That was.
Oh yeah, that's right. I had to do.
You were running around. Actually, to be fair, that was nerve-wracking. Sitting here on the phone watching it unfold. Oh man,
because that was not just Burger Meat 7. That was Sportscaster Safari Launch.
Yeah. So this event basically started gathering, and we were thinking if 10, 15 people turned up, it'd be great. And I think about 30 turned up to the first one, and
I'll bring up some photos of it. I'll find out. Because the website's still live, anygivenreason.com. If you want to go there. Actually,
historical archives.
Actually, just to cut you off there, being a pain, but I've just spent the last week migrating the Sportscaster Safari website to a new host, which was absolutely horrid. But a part of that was Any Given Reasons hosted at the same one, so I've got to migrate that as well. And I went into Any Given Reason to have a look, and there was actually people still commenting on stuff from February this year. So there's still you should get in there and maybe reply to some of them, relive it again. Anyway, so
while you're searching for the photos, these meets, and every time we did it, we just have more people, and it became quite famous for incredibly long lines for food and drinks. Like there were some hilarious.
We apologize for that.
Apologize for that.
Explain to people how that stuff. It was just like the bane of our existence, basically.
So here's the thing. Every time you go to an event or you go to any sort of public event that anyone has put on, whether they do that professionally or as a hobby, it is an insane amount of work. You don't understand how much work it is. So I have a whole new respect for people that do events now. If you go to something and the queues are a bit long to get served, you know what? It's cool. Just live with it. And we learned that. And the problem we'd have is that you'd ring venues up and you'd say, we would like you to cater for 300 people. And they'd go, great. And they'd take your deposit. And then they'd sort of in their minds go, you're not going to get 300 people. We'll cater for 100 people. And then
we don't want to be left with food. We don't want to be left with food.
We don't want to be left with food, So then 400 people would turn up, and then it'd just be catastrophe. So the next time we'd go to a new venue and say, okay, 400 people came, so let's cater for 500 people. The venue would end up catering for 300 people. Then 600 people would turn up, and it just turned into this massive nightmare. And I mean, once we had a caterer that actually, if Ross Richards Legal, I think he's up in Queensland now, but he helped us massively with that. But we have a caterer who who just didn't believe us at all. He turned up without the staff, without the food. There was, it was just an absolute nightmare, and we had to effectively threaten him with legal action to get the money back that we paid him. It was just a nightmare.
It was horrible.
And in the end, that's kind of why it petered out, I guess, because you'd actually stopped becoming a bunch of car guys getting together and families and friends, and it became like a proper event where suddenly, I didn't realize this, all the things you never consider. So most of the councils, obviously venues are licensed for the number of patrons, and if you want to have more people, you need to hire public toilets for that, and portable toilets. And when you look into the cost of hiring portable toilets, it's thousands and thousands of dollars. And you never think about that when you go to an event and you go to the porta potties, but there's $3,000-$4,000 worth of toilets there, and it's stuff like that.
I'll put up this. This is from their first event. So this we rung up. How many weeks' notice did you give to the guys at Fancy Burger? So this was at Belair,
Blackwood.
Blackwood Coles car park.
Yeah. We gave them a couple of weeks, couple of days. Probably not enough.
Yeah, probably not. Oh, we're gonna have like 20-ish people rock up, and then how many cars? I was selling HSVs at City Holden at that point. Oh, look at that!
That's right. Brenton Griggle turned up in the 575.
The 575, which is cool.
Huge for us back then.
And Rodders Rexy. Look at that.
The rally car, the Alphas.
Oh, look, there's your MX-5.
I remember that car.
And I brought. Oh, is that Harvey's Bug too?
We should obviously, for our listeners that don't have that aren't watching this, obviously we'll try and be as descriptive as possible.
Yeah, sorry.
There's back then, and it literally was quite cool. But
so it was in the Coles car park of Blackwood, and across the road is this cool little business called Fancy Burger that do wicked burgers, good little Adelaide business. And we thought, we'll just rock up to the Coles car park on a weekend. Like, no one's really going to notice. Like, there'll be no, we'll have a few cars there, and we filled up half the car park.
David, that's right. David Rosini just got his Delta Integrale.
Got his Integrale. That was an 8-valve grey one with OZs on it. It's pretty sweet. Yeah. Oh, look at that! Sorry, you have to zoom in on that.
I'm sorry for our audio.
DS is DS is definitely listening. That's a few years ago. DS still suave as ever.
Beautiful picture. Look at
beautiful that picture. It's a head of hair, that one. And Felix and Xander.
Wow.
I think, Jesus, was it this long ago that wearing like no socks or like short socks was
cargo shorts?
Cargo shorts are the thing.
I still wear short socks. Calm down.
But you're a bike rider. Like, it's different for those guys. I don't think Xander bike rides actually he's got a bit more hair there too. Actually,
old time.
Actually, that was one of I remember that RS being there as well. It's lorries, FPV. That thing was mental.
I think bulk power.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Yeah, there we go. Bulk power, 490 kilowatts at the wheels, mind you.
That's crazy.
That was
anyway.
huge. That thing was epic. He's had a few crazy years.
Maybe we should bring it back. It's actually go back up there. Two Festi. We should get Damien Reed on. You know what we should do? We should get the original Two Festi crew back together. We bought this little Ford Festiva the night before a Motorcana for like $150, and we went and entered some events in it. Amazing, actually. But Anyway,
cool. Cheap motorsport TVR.
Motorsport is cheap.
There was some cool stuff there. Like, I mean, for just a little blog that. GT4 little blog back in the day. There was some cool stuff. Did some cool. That was like early light painting photography, wasn't it?
Pretty rubbish now when you look at it.
But, no, it's great. Dad loves that picture.
Yeah, that's right. And Chris Harvey in that Beetle, and then he dropped the set leaving. That was great.
That was a pretty quick car, actually.
Yeah, that was good
for a Beetle. That was super fast.
Anyway, I'm sure that people listening to the audio are not really getting the full benefit of this.
I have to jump on YouTube and have a look. But that was kind of the start, and then it compounded from there. We tried to run one during the winter in Milo.
It rained a lot.
But that was okay. I was in a GTS that day, and that was great.
I remember that morning. I was living up in Macclesfield at the time, and just waking up early that morning, and you could just hear the rain just coming in on the roof going, oh no, I didn't even want to go myself. I was like, how can I expect people to come and I don't even want to go?
But we filled up like half the boundary of the oval. There was still a good amount of people. Good. And then by the end of it, we basically, when Burger Meat 7 came around, that was, I reckon,
we went to Penny's Hill Wines, Tony Parkinson. He was good at it. The venue was just fantastic for it.
And he believed us, which was good.
He believed us, which was awesome. But yeah, as I said, the problem with it is it becomes work. And if you're not getting paid for it and if you're not making money out of it, it's just a lot of work. And you don't even enjoy it yourself, because when you're there's so much to do and so many people saying that you're not even enjoying. You can't even. Yeah. I wasn't even bringing my own car for half of them because I just couldn't be bothered. You just wanted to get there and get it done.
The last one, you weren't there, but because I had to take all the stuff for the magazine up, I printed our shirts. I screen printed our shirts before we went up, all that kind of stuff, and I ended up taking the Como wagon up there. So the good old VX Commodore wagon got a trip up to Bergamo to carry all the stuff, the sound equipment and everything. And
this is the thing now. It's like when you go to events and be that a food and wine festival or a car event or anything, and you know, you whinge about the $10 drinks or whatever and all this crazy stuff. It's like that costs that because events are a massive pain in the ass and they're really expensive. And either they need to be small and underground and free and fun, or they need to be big and profitable. It's when you're caught in the middle ground of you know, it becomes hard work, but you're not making anything from it to justify it. It's all a bit tricky. But I think we look to do it again. Look to maybe change the format up a bit. Maybe make it invite only. Anyone who's watching this, you've got yourselves an invite.
maybe it could be like, I don't know. Maybe like invite, and the kind of the night before or the morning of or the afternoon of or something is when you send out the location or something like that. Like make it real late so that you have to really be prepared and really want to go and stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe some other cool ideas. We had like for eventy things, which I think would be pretty cool too. Like I wanted to do one like some indoor events too and stuff that we can kind of hold it throughout the year and just kind of have a bit more curated people and a bit of a theme for it.
Yeah.
Because I think one of the strengths of Burger Meat that I saw anyway, and part of the bit that I loved about what it became was that, you know, it wasn't a mark, it wasn't a person, we've had arguments, and I don't know if you were there for any of them, but I had arguments with people about not parking in special spots and blah, 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 blah. And we're not going to park all the old, you know,
So here's the
together. Like it's just going to be a mixed bag. And
you arrive at any event and they don't pull you out to park separately. Like just
bad luck.
With everyone else.
Well, I mean, like, and this is. I'll put up a picture. Like Tom, who designed the poster for 7, took some cool pictures because I was running around like a.
Those were great pictures.
Yeah, they're great pictures.
In the middle of our first winter over here, and I was all away from cold and raining, and then these pictures come through of it was very cool.
Yeah, well, I was running around like nuts trying to do SCS stuff and give away magazines and sell shirts and promote Sportscaster Safari, which we kind of launched at that event.
Yeah. I guess it's a good segue as well. Like if we're going to talk about, you know, the Adelaide Motorsport Festival that Tim Possingham runs.
Yeah, sure.
Hopefully we can have some pictures up. But there
you go. There's like instant one. There's like a 360 sitting in a grass field next to an old Merc and next to a Focus and a Corvette and old BMW. And
given summer in Australia, I was so nervous about someone starting a grass fire when I saw the
Well, yeah, Paki was a bit unprepared for that one. I was out helping stuff, but you know, it's like a really good mixed bag. And Paki obviously had some pretty cool cars as well that were there. But you know, there's just what I really loved about it was there's just everything there. Like you name it, and it was there, and it was such a cool vibe. And like I mean, you just look at the scale of people there, and
look at those people together. Close.
Social distancing. But like, you know, that was not even, a quarter of the people that were there. I think someone took a drone shot and counted other Stewie K's 911.
I know it was 700-800 cars, something like that, wasn't it?
Seven. I think they counted about 700-800 cars and about 1,500 people. I don't know. It was something ridiculous anyway.
When you think that's literally two unprepared guys and a bunch of friends just kind of throwing it together at the last minute, that's a proper event type stuff.
and we love the support that people gave to it, and I guess the fact that, I mean, Andrew and I, we might get into this in a bit if we've got enough time, but like, we're both whatever car people. Like, we're not snobs of anything. If I know personally that if like you appreciate your car, I can appreciate your car too. And not necessarily fall in love with it, but if someone has a car and they love that car and they appreciate that car and they look after that car, I can appreciate that too. Like, I understand that bond, because the bond isn't about a brand or a car or something. It's about the feelings that a car gives you and about the emotions it gives you. Like, it's not about, I've got the rarest, Porsche, or I've got the rarest Jag, or there's only 14 of these made. Like, I mean, that's a factor, but does that car do anything for you? Does it give you joys? Does it conjure up memories? Does it remind you of something? Do you smell like fuel getting out of it? Like, you need
to use them, I'm not about the the people that don't use cars and treat them too preciously. I think they're there to be used. I mean, obviously, you know what? Like, these objects are they're just metal and plastic, and that they're not going to be around in 200-300 years. So you might as well use them.
Use them while you can. Not all of them are. Hey, the real special ones will be.
Yeah, exactly.
Like fossil fuels and electrification and everything like that.
Yeah, get out there and use them. Use them up, rebuild them. So. Well, I guess that's kind of a bit of a segue into the magazine, because this was sort of winding down, and we wanted to. Both Luke and I have, had this love of print magazines going back, and we just wanted to do it ourselves. And I guess it was a case of just jumping in and saying, how hard can it be? And it turns out very, very hard. Yes.
Well, it was when you were living in Mackie, we kind of came up with the idea, right? How many years ago was that? Would have been 8 or something.
If I can be honest, the first couple of years of Sportscaster Safari were our meetings were largely consisted of about 3 or 4 hours drinking beer and whiskey and playing
and reading cool car magazines,
talking crap, and then spending half an hour working this project once a week.
once my wife Ruth was like, "Oh, you guys working? Yeah, working.
Yeah. Hold on. Anyway, so but no. Eventually, we got the first issue out, and I think certainly. I mean, speak for yourself, Luke. For me, I completely underestimated how much time and effort goes into something like this when you're doing it with 2 people. You see a lot of magazines, and they have teams of 5-6 people working full time on it, and I completely understand why they do that now.
Yeah, and also the cost of it too. Like, I was a bit naive. Well, I think we're both a bit naive about the sheer cost of running a magazine, and how much print media actually costs, and why there's a need for advertisers, and why there's a need for subscribers and payment of magazine, I guess.
And as well over here, moving to the UK and meeting more people kind of in the industry. And I think the big realization for me was you meet every cool project you realize had a couple of £100,000 behind it to kind of kick it off, or at least tens of thousands, at least 50,000, £60,000 behind it to kind of kick it off. And it was the realization that we had nothing and we were trying to do this on no investment, which I'm very proud that of what we've done with nothing behind us, but you kind of look to, I mean, I've got the road wrap behind us, and it is a spectacular publication, and absolute hats off to that team because fantastic. But Guy Berryman, Coldplay, and it's like that's kind of how they were able to sort of get the ball rolling on that. And I think that's probably been the big realization that even if you're just looking to to cover your time to do it, that's an expense, and then there's a print bill of $10,000 minimum, to front up, and it's just a lot of cash flow for a bit of what's quite frankly a shaky return, really. But we do it for the fun of it and the love of it, I guess, and hopefully if we can grow it into something that will sustain itself, then I'd say we've won, really. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been a really good journey, like so far in it anyway, about learning about the industry and having an opportunity to do that while working a normal day job and I guess semi doing an apprenticeship in it, which is really cool, and learning design and getting a feel for it and stuff. So I mean, like, you do most of the photography and most of the writing, I do most of the design and website and merch and editing and kind of pull things together, and Dad's proofreading.
yeah
cool.
So I guess that's an interesting thing, that when we came into this, none of us, like neither of us, had any experience in any of this whatsoever. It was all purely learnt through YouTube tutorials and asking questions and trial and error and whatnot, and
having a crack, I think, has been
having a crack. And I think, to be fair, that's what they say, just do it. Like, if you want to do something, just do it. And even if it's not at the level, or but what you learn through doing that is more valuable than any amount of watching YouTube tutorials will ever teach you. So
well, I mean, you look at Burger Meat as an example. Like, when you told me the idea, I was like, great, yeah, let's have a crack. Like, what's the worst? We get our mates around and we have a couple of beers and a burger with our mates while we sit in a car park and look at cars. Like, no big deal. And then I mean, what it grew to become of like 1,500 people and 800 cars or whatever. Like, how many car clubs and or events and or companies would love to have that kind of following and that type of attendance to an event, and we just did it as a screw it, let's do it, let's have a crack, and there it was. So
so that's cool. Well, I guess, like, it's a good segue. Your favorite Sportscar Safari story, what's been the highlight for you? And I'm just going to turn around and get my magazine so I can show the crowd.
My favorite one is the one you're writing next. Like, the
next one's always the favorite, isn't it?
The next one's always a favorite. I don't know. I guess it's just one of those things where, actually, honestly, my favorite one is to come in the next issue. But like,
the next issue is going to be a good issue, and I know we don't want to just sort of say that, but I'm really looking forward to getting it out there. I think it's going to be. Luke, can we show a preview, or is that too advanced? Maybe we shouldn't. I don't know, but
we'll have something out soon. I don't want to, given the issues we've had with the stream before, I don't want to start up InDesign and kill the whole.
Yeah, true.
It'll come soon enough.
No. But yeah, I mean, look, 2 issues. What's your favorite? I have to give you one. What's your favorite? We can tell the stories behind them.
Yeah, if you want. Yeah, that's cool.
For me, issue 1, there was a couple. Issue 1 was very cool.
My favorite one out of that was actually going to Melbourne and meeting Jordan Roddy and shooting the Viper and stuff like that. That was sick. Like, I wasn't overly happy with how the story panned out because it wasn't exactly what we had planned. But hey, we got to meet Darcy Russell, which is pretty cool. Like, that doesn't happen every day. You get to go to his house and have a chat and look at his.
So how that happened is obviously Jordan Roddy, who we've had on the podcast. He did the restoration of this Viper, which we both watched racing in Australian GT at the time. You can find it on YouTube. In fact, I was literally yesterday watching it. And in the meantime of us getting ourselves to Melbourne to shoot the story, he sold the car. But being the absolute champ that he is, he arranged for us to still do the story with the new owner. Darcy Russell is a legend of Australian motorsport, has done so much national racing, and he used to also race a Viper in Australian GT or Nations Cup at the time. And the good news was that when we went to his shed, he still had his Viper in his garage. So that's why you see the 2 Vipers there. They are the 2 Vipers that raced in Nations Cup back in the 2000s. So that was a really nice surprise. But the problem was that what we were kind of not expecting is we couldn't really move either of them out of the garage. So trying to
race car life.
shoot them in a very unaesthetic. Actually, it was a very cool garage. It was a very cool space.
Dude, like just
great for photos.
I actually want to email Darcy one day or call him back up again and see if I can get one of those Playboy shirts or some of that merch from back in the day from that Bathurst campaign. That would have been pretty cool.
That was good. Yeah, he raced at Bathurst in the 90s with Playboy back. The real characters.
Yeah, but and having like F5000 wheels sitting under his workbench and like just cool stuff.
Yeah, very cool.
So yeah, we're very, very blessed to be able to.
In this issue, in our first issue, my highlight I think was actually this Focus RS story.
That was good.
I really enjoyed that because that was I had the car for the weekend, and it was we were home from the UK at the time for a wedding, and we had kind of when you go away for a wedding, and we'd actually gone away for a wedding at this venue, so that was kind of why we got there.
And it was near where I was living at the time too.
Yeah, down at Langhorne Creek, and it was great. And basically it was just 2 or 3 days of Daniel Collins at Jarvis Cars very kindly arranged to borrow this Focus RS, and it was just a great
which has just been announced that they're not going to continue.
Yeah, they're not,
which is really interesting. Like I read that the other day and was kind of a bit sad. I wasn't overly in love with that model. Like I thought as a track car, it was fantastic, but as a day-to-day driver, like it's just so harsh. Like, and I think it was like,
but
I think if you're like doing freeway driving every single day of the week, and it was like smooth, nice tarmac, and you just like dailying it somewhere, it's perfect. Or if you had it as like a weekend tour, you go to a track car, it's perfect. But I think it's like a day to drive, sitting in traffic, going over bumps, dealing with, mid bump corners on an off camber, wet road or something. It's really too hard for that kind of work.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a 6-hour. I mean, I got to go have lunch for it, and all that kind of stuff. It was quite good. That was
of course there was Stuart K's 901, the short wheelbase, which is a criminally, I can't believe this car hasn't had more coverage in the international media, because it really is a historically very significant, very important car. It's a 1960, what year is it? 1965 911, and it's the second right-hand drive Porsche 911 ever built. It's the first 911 delivered to Australia. And it is in completely original condition. It's been, a full trace of history. It's never been restored. It has most of its original paint, original interior. Engine gearbox is the same. Stuart has the full history for it. That the Cardex shows the key codes. The Porsche nerds really get right into like matching keys and matching panels, and it's like all of the panels on it are stamped, and the panels match, and the keys match, and I mean even down to the fact that it has the key ring. Has the Porsche logo embossed in the same green leather that the interior was trimmed out of. Like it's just that car anywhere in the world, that's $1 million or more. Like it would find a home in any collection in the world overnight. And this thing lives in Adelaide, and Stuart drives the piss out of it. Like I remember we were driving out we took it back to the first owner was had Colin Grove Homestead, Colin Grove Estate and Colin Grove Homestead, which is where the Colin Grove Hill Climb is. This was his car, so we decided to take it back to Colin Grove Homestead. And I remember Stewie lives in the hills, and we pulled onto the freeway, and he just absolutely wound it out in second, third, and fourth gear, like 7,000 RPM. We were doing, I'm not going to say what speed we were doing, but it was very quick. And this
allegedly.
And this is a thing that's, a priceless original 911 that would be in a museum. Like to be fair, you could probably sell it to the Porsche Museum. Like it's that kind of car. And he just uses it. He picks the kids up from school in it. He takes it to the track. It's very cool. Very, very cool. So
yeah, that was a good one. Actually, Robert Blizzard on YouTube chat just said 200 Turbo was pretty good.
Thank you. Yep,
that was a good one.
Thank you. That was cool, actually.
It was good to experience early turbo era cars, and just the sheer lag and boost delivery in them is another world.
Yeah. And then I guess we've got issue 2. Yeah, that was some I don't know. There's just some great stories out there. I think it's I don't even know where to start. So many good.
I mean, you're gone to Lisbon. That was pretty cool. Like,
that was that was a very cool going to Cool and Vintage. That's obviously the cover. The cover there. Yeah, so it's in the Land Rover Restorers. Not Restorers. It's a brand. Cool and Vintage is a brand run by Ricardo.
Like the singer of like Land Rovers, basically.
They are, but Ricardo's background is in creative direction of like marketing and whatnot, and he was really the cars, the Land Rover restorations they do are just kind of one thing of this lifestyle brand that he's sort of building and putting together quite successfully. And at Cool N Vintage on Instagram, it's a if you're ever stuck at home, especially during a lockdown like now, it's just endless wanderlust. You look at their pictures and you just want to take off into the sunset and drive it. And yeah, we were in Lisbon. It was winter, so it was quite cold, but happened to be in Lisbon, and just managed to go and visit them. And it's a really cool area that they're not in the city. I had to catch a ferry out into a sort of a rural area, and then
a ferry.
A ferry, yeah. There was a from Lisbon. You I can't remember what the river's called, the main river through Lisbon, but basically they're sort of over the river, and it was an area like for those in Adelaide. It kind of didn't look too dissimilar to sort of Virginia around sort of Virginia out north. It's kind of quite flat farmland, but not farm. Sort of growing olives and veggies
crops.
And things like that.
No crops out there.
Not those sorts of, well, maybe, but and they were just in this in the back of, there was just an industrial estate, and I actually thought the location was wrong because it was just a sort of a prefab concrete kind of industrial estate. And you get there and I was like, and then you walk back and there's a CrossFit gym and a car parts store and a bits and bobs, and I was like, but then you go down the back and you kind of walk around the corner and suddenly the doors are painted yellow and the walls around it are all painted, and there's just Land Rovers everywhere. And the interior of this, there's some shots in the magazine, but the interior of their workshop, it's the only restoration workshop that has a Chesterfield lounge and like Ralph Lauren books and model cars, and they had an old series Land Rover with a Mini on the roof.
Yeah, I was just about to say that was one thing that stuck out. I mean, from someone who gets to edit everything and not get to I experienced quite a bit, but like those overseas trips, no. Yeah. Like one thing that stuck out for me, like the way you describe like going through concrete, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't appear that way from like the way that door was a picture that I put in there because it just struck me as such a contrasty kind of another world, like kind of that brandy, do what I want, cool kind of thing. And I guess if that's like, that'd be even more of a contrast if it's in like concrete jungle type area. So it's pretty cool. And like the old Alpha Nord motor sitting there, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and the thing I got was talking to Ricardo. I ended up spending a couple of hours chatting to Ricardo, and he is. It's like he is so passionate about, and the thing I loved about him is a lot of people you meet, they're very that run these types of things, they're very blindsided. Not blindsided, that's the wrong word. They're very passionate about their one make or model, their one their one thing, and they don't look at anything else. And I sort of expected Ricardo to be like a Land Rover guy, and Land Rover guys are often very, very, very into it. And Ricardo was like, no. He likes Land Rovers because he thinks, the best tool for the job of exploring and adventuring. But he was just as passionate about 911s, about Alpha 105s, about Minis, about this sort of stuff. And Toyota Land Cruisers, like he was a really passionate guy, very inspirational, talker about his motivations of, and I've definitely taken some lessons from him. That one thing I remember him talking about was that to him the cars were there to improve his life. That's why he built them, because they allowed him to drive and go on these trips and explore. And he's like, and he made the point that it's like, if a car isn't improving your life, then why do you have it? And I kind of think that sometimes when people have I mean, obviously, unless you're made of money, you sometimes need to do a lot yourself. But sometimes when just endless seas of projects and work and toil and hassle and towing cars and moving trailers and lifting and all of this sort of stuff, it's like, is it actually improving your life? I don't know. I think it's good to just keep that in mind sometimes and make sure that yeah. So anyway, that was a very cool story. I really enjoyed that. So
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, one of the things that I got from the story and your discussion with him was the concept behind just trying to leave as little power as possible in these old Land Rovers, because it's a very easy thing to do nowadays with like our fuel injection and other motors and technology and cheap tools to be able to do the fabrication work. Is that so many people get into this, whoa, stick like a Rover V8 in this one from another one, or or what happened here in Australia lots is that we did the Holden Red 202s and all the old Land Rovers. Yeah, so that was like a straight six, you know, motor that was bountiful in Holdens everywhere, and people shoved them in. When you go to look at all these Land Rovers, it's all Holden 202, Holden 202, and you go, oh, that's great. But his thing behind it was, it doesn't, like, the chassis doesn't need more power. Like, what do you need to go faster for? It needs to get over stuff, which it can do, but it doesn't need to go 200 miles an hour down the freeway. Like, you don't need that.
Because anyone that's
enjoy the journey,
you don't want to go fast. They're not built for going fast. It'd
be scary.
Yeah, they are. Like 100 kilometers an hour is frightening in one of these things, And I think it's good to keep it in mind. It's actually an interesting thing we're talking on the Land Rovers. A lot of these cars in Australia, the Land Rovers didn't quite make as much sense because it's a very flat, open country, and something that's so slow, and all this sort of stuff. But then, since being in the UK and driving the roads and driving the country lanes, around Solihull where Land Rovers were built, farmers over here, use Land Rovers. You go to the Cotswolds, you go to Scotland, and it is just working truck-dog Land Rovers everywhere you go. And you drive the roads over here and you look, and it's like, okay, so there's lots of very small lanes, narrow lanes. You need good sight. The paddocks, the fields are small by Australian standards, with tight, narrow gates and trees, and often you've got to.
You don't need a plane to go see the other side of your property.
No, exactly. And you need something that's small and nimble and slow, and you don't really go much faster than sort of 40 mile an hour in these things. And in that circumstance, a Land Rover is the perfect tool for that job. You can see why they've been designed that way. It's quite interesting, actually.
Well, I guess it's like Fiat 500s in Rome, right? Like.
Yeah.
Built for small Italian laneways, but no fun trying to get up a freeway anywhere else in the world. It'd be pretty horrible.
And to be fair, I'm gonna go, become a big softy about this now. But you look at the Holden Commodore. That a Commodore is the car for Australia when you have very long, wide open, straight distances to cover. A Commodore is the car you want.
Meat pies and Commodores. Yeah. What was the song? How did that go?
Football, meat pies, kangaroo.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've got a Commodore. I've got a lovely VX Commodore wagon, which is 2002. That thing, I've done the Australian thing. It's been to Bathurst.
Yeah.
It's camped out at Bathurst, which is pretty cool. Were you there? No, you weren't there that year.
No.
You were UK by then. I think KVS came with us that year.
300-400. I remember you wanted to get rid of it. Like, you were convinced you were going to get rid of it, but you just can't bring yourself to do it because
it hasn't died yet.
Why would you?
Hasn't died yet. It's the only car that tows the trailer at the moment, so it's stuck around.
Yeah. Even I did the skid in that thing. That's amazing. Yeah. You have to. It's part of being Australian.
Oh yeah, I know.
A VX, you have to do a skid. But anyway. It's so weird. I've been, obviously in this lockdown, we've got a lot of time to think and to look at classifieds and just get lost. And, and I've been dreaming about if we ever move back to Australia, I genuinely think I'm going to buy an SS Ute. They just seem so ridiculous. The idea of having, I never even gave them any attention when I lived in Australia. Just didn't care. And now I'm like, the idea of a 6-liter V8 with a 6-speed manual and a Ute as a car, that's just obscene. I need to tick that box.
My first Ute driving experience and my first V8 Holden Ute experience was when I started at City Holden, and I was 18 years old, kind of like an apprentice car salesman. It was called a cadetship. It was a really good program. We went around the dealership and did so much work with everything, learnt the dealership, learnt every facet of it. And one of the jobs I had was we had to go pick up cars from the caravan and camping show down at the showgrounds. Wow. So from the CBD to the showgrounds, it's about 5Ks or 6Ks or something. It's not very far. Pouring with rain, absolutely pouring. And I got handed the keys to a VY Series 2 Maloo R8. So that had the big wheels, the big brakes.
They did not get better than that.
No, I should bring up a picture of those actually. They were like, and it was actually make green again. Great. It was like a British racing green. Yeah. No, it wasn't a hot house green because that was VY Series 1, but this is VY2 Maloo.
I can't believe it. Yeah, fantasizing over Commodores.
I know, it's scary. Anyway, so my first experience was in one of those, driving in the wet and switching traction control off and absolutely letting loose on this thing. And
amazing.
It was great. It was fantastic. Actually, where's the picture? Oh, they've only got like real. I don't know. I could actually probably bring up a brochure I've got lying around of it somewhere. But they are like,
it's just one of those things you don't realize what you've got until you don't have it. And now, in the UK, I mean, we have our daily driver is a Mazda 3, a 2-liter Mazda 3, and that's considered the engine over here. To have a 2-liter as your sort of hatchback, it's quite a big engine. In a small car, it's quite quick, and then you just think that's madness compared to. But anyway,
I mean, they were like the R8s were 275 kilowatt, like LS3. 5.7 liter V8s. So they're a pretty quick bit of kit, had a good direct manual gearbox and like just no traction, like absolutely nothing. It was just light up at like nothing, tap of the throttle. Oh, you there? We've lost Andrew. Hang on, you back? Hang on. Hello? Andrew might need to go again. Anyway, I'm going to keep trying to find a picture of an R8U, see what we can get.
It would just be great one day to buy something like that. But over here with fuel being...
Hey, you're back on. Sorry, we lost you for a minute there.
I think I lost you too. So we're back.
Both still talking. It's going to come out of the live stream like afterwards. It's like probably both us just awkwardly talking on top of each other.
Anyway, what I was saying was we probably need to stop talking fantasizing over Holdens, but just saying how
well, they're gone now. You always want what you can't get anymore, right? You can't buy a new Commodore anymore.
But Monaros, so the Vauxhall Monaro over here, they're
Vauxhall VXR, aren't they?
They're half the price. They're literally
we were talking about the other night. Like we were sending each other messages as we do about stupid things that we find on the internet, and I was like, what? It's like mid-2000s pricing Monaros, not current pricing Monaros. Like, really cheap.
I think because obviously the conditions over here, used cars just they tank. They don't. A used car is not worth anything in the UK. They appreciate so fast because the weather, they just get trashed and all this sort of stuff. And obviously with fuel prices, I mean now the kind of like our fuel is down around £1.05 a litre, so that's what $1.65, $1.70 a litre, and that's good for us. Fuel normally. Wow. I mean, if you can find it for about £1.25 to £1.30, so what's that? Like $1.02, $3 a litre, something like that. Then that's everywhere.
We're like 90 cents to $1 something at the moment, Australian.
The idea of, let me do the conversion at the moment. So if we're talking fuel prices, so £1, so what I pay, £1.28 is pretty typical. Into Australian dollars, that works out at $2.41 a litre is cheap. That's what you pay normally.
Wow.
Yeah, the idea of running a 6-litre V8 at $2.41 a litre is just frightening. So I think that's why they're worth nothing over here. But
and I guess that's why that stuff's still popular in the US, is their petrol's even cheaper than what we've got here. Like, I think we're expensive compared to them. It's crazy.
I was over there last year. I literally couldn't believe it. I did the math because they sell it by the gallon. So I did the math. converting like a US dollar to an Australian dollar, then a gallon to a litre. And it was like 40 cents a litre or something, 45 cents a litre. It's nothing. It's comically low. I had to do it twice. I was like, no, that's got to be wrong. Did it again.
But all the money we raise in taxes over in Australia all goes back into the roads and fixing the roads and making it safer. And probably buying speed cameras.
That's a whole nother rant for another day.
Whole nother rant for another day. Well, I mean, yeah. Anyway, fantasizing about funny cars. I fantasize about getting my first car back on the road.
Well, yeah, you still have it. So,
well, so do you. Yeah. I think that's something, again, aside from our jumpers that we're wearing today, the same color, is something we both share in common is we both still have the first cars that we had. And they both happen to be Fiats.
Not planned.
Not planned.
Really not at all. So that's interesting. How we both were 16-year-old and had Fiats in Adelaide and hadn't actually really met each other is a bit bizarre.
Yeah,
anyway, so your little 124, how's that going? Last time I saw it, I could put my fist through some of the rust holes in it.
Well, you can still as well, yeah. But I've got another chassis for it as well. So yeah, I've got I've actually got I've kept some pictures. It was my late Nornor's 124 that he bought as a retirement present for himself, and I learned to drive manual in that thing. So when I was a little kid, maybe 10 years old or something, we'd go driving, we'd go play golf, or we'd go out somewhere, and he'd always get me to shift the gears. So there's little I've got an actual picture. There's little Luke in my Nornor. Yeah, and of course
that would be so hipster today.
I want to know where it is. I think someone in the family's got it. I need to try and find it. But but you know, good old Italian like lamb's wool seat covers and everything. You know, keep you safe. So he bought that as his retirement present for himself to restore and have, because he always wanted one. And I ended up getting it and learnt to do clutches and manual in our driveway at home after school before mum and dad got home. And you know, we'd like, must have annoyed the life out of my neighbors, but I'd like get it out of the garage, reverse the whole way down the driveway, then accelerate as fast as I could up to the end of the garage, then stop and then reverse back and do the same thing for like half an hour up and down the driveway.
Basically what I'm doing now in lockdown.
Yeah, pretty much up and down the driveway. So I taught myself how to drive that. And we went to a track day. I did driver training day, and I think that's part of the problem in Australia that I find with people driving is that we don't have enough of these things. So I went as a P-plater thinking, you know, I own the world. I'm invincible. I can drive the wheels off anything. To out at Malala in the 124 with epic body roll, learning how to drive. And so I had all my experiences in this car of learning car control and getting taught and being, you know, the instructors who are part of the MSCA, who you would have all known, telling me to go faster backwards round an off-camber corner and wanting me to spin out. So I learned what it was like to spin out, which is really, really cool. And on that track...
It's so, well, you know, along like that, one thing I found so useful is just knowing the limit of your car, knowing where it is. So when you're on the road, you know what's fast and what's not. You know, that's people just don't learn.
Because you can do that in a controlled environment, and then when you're out on the road and you're in an uncontrolled environment in unknown situations, you've got a better understanding about what you can and can't do in your own car, which is really good. But a part of that experience, my Nornor, he was as old, I think a lot of refugees of the war as such. He came to Australia and was always very tight on spending on things. And one of the things I found out doing the driver train day was that Nornor had retorqued the timing belt. And so this was another part of Luke learning in life, and probably what led me to trying to turn my hand to being a mechanic and trying to fix things was I stripped a whole chunk of teeth out of the timing belt at Malala and bent a couple of valves, and me and him, you know, 16-year-old Luke, this was just after that, washing it after we rebuilt the head at his house. So that's in his driveway. So rebuilt that. And then not long after that, sorry to take you on my car journey. It's quite funny. because I've got a very high attachment to this car. I actually had this. I took, and I'm sorry, Elise, because you had to put up with smelly old Fiat, but I took it to my year 11 formal, which I thought was baller as anything. And looking back now, probably was, but I don't think many people thought I was. But I had, for those of you who aren't watching on YouTube, my dad got a chauffeur hat and drove us around in the Fiat, and we got there, which is pretty cool. So I've had a long history with the car, and it kind of rusted out a bit, as Fiats of that era did with Russian steel. So it's currently a bit. Nornal was really good mechanically. Just bodywork left a little bit as well. A bit of bog. So I'm lucky enough to still have it, and it's currently stripped down to a shell. And I'm basically getting to the point of just finishing off some renovations in the shed to get ready to keep restoring it, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But your Fiat.
Yeah, mine's led a bit of an interest. I have an X19 1979. It's one of the series, what they call a series 1.5 car. So it was effectively the worst X19. There's so mmany things about that car, and now I just categorically shit. But I actually really like it. That's what I like the most about that car now. Is that so? And it's just the Italian approach, you know. I've been lucky to spend some more time with Porsches lately, and you look at how they're built and how the factory operated, and then you look at the X19, and it's just hilarious. It's the Porsches, the doors clack, that the wiring harnesses have their path, that all the parts have part numbers in them. Like, it's just a beautiful, high quality thing. And this X19, so Australia got a batch of what they called Series 1.5 cars. So the early Series 1 cars had a 1300cc engine and small, beautiful, slimline bumpers, which is how the car was designed to be.
Which looked beautiful.
Yeah, and then obviously, as what happened with most sports cars in the 70s, to meet ever stringent crash legislation, they then bolted these big stainless steel
plastic.
Which actually now, in hindsight, I don't hate them as much as I used to. But at the same time, they put a more modern interior in the car. They gave it a 1500cc engine and a 5-speed gearbox. So they kind of modernized it and brought it up in line with this update. But Australia being an odd market, they had parts left over. So we got these Series 1.5 cars. So they had the body of the new car. So they had the ugly bumpers and the new dash, which didn't look as clean. And, but then they still had the old mechanical package, because obviously they had a few 1300cc engines left over. So just put them in them and send them to Australia. They won't know the difference,
Yeah.
So yeah, mine's
they drive those crappy Holdens there. They won't know.
That'll be fine. And it's and Australia, I believe Australia is the only market in the world that got this particular specification of car, which makes them unique for all the wrong reasons. But anyway, so that was mine. And at the time I was looking for my first car, and it was basically a toss up between an Alfa Sud, because obviously we all had the Boxer engine Alfa Romeos. My dad did, and Luke's dad, and some friends did at the time. It was basically a Sud, a Datsun 1600, a Datsun 240Z, or an X19. And a 240Z was just out of my budget. Like, it was a bit too expensive. So that, I think I had about $3,000 or $4,000 to spend, and they were about five or six or something. So,
roughly.
But yeah, it was basically just a matter of, whenever the right car came, and the X19 I found, and thought it was a good thing, and turned out to be an absolute dog. It was rubbish. My poor dad's 16. I'm not as mechanically gifted as Luke is. So my dad had many days of trying to get this thing to not overheat. I helped him, passing tools and stuff, but it did a head gasket. It overheated. We had electrical problems, and then the paint had been freshly painted, and it was sort of lifting, and it was just all bad news. And then eventually I got fed up with it and decided that I was like, the frustrating thing, I took the bumpers off and did the boy racer thing and drove it around for a few years. And I took it to my year 11 formal as well, which was in winter in the Adelaide Hills, and then it wouldn't run when it was cold. So we had to sit, because it was at the Stirling Golf Club, and the car park at the bottom of a steep hill. And I knew that unless the engine was warm, it didn't make it up the top of the hill. So we had to sit there warming it up for like 10 minutes. which was very embarrassing.
Did your date like it though? Like, did she enjoy that experience, or did she hate it?
No, it's a catastrophe. Right. Absolute catastrophe.
Yeah, what like 16, 17-year-old girl wants to sit in an old smelly Fiat? You're sitting there going, "This is great. I'm warming up my car," and
I didn't want to warm it up.
She wanted the limo. She wanted like the Hummer limo.
Can we go now? I was like, no, I'm really sorry, but we're literally not going to make it up. So I don't want to be here either. Like, that was basically it. Yeah, I came to the conclusion. I was like, for some reason, I got it in my mind that I wanted to make it perfect. I don't quite know what I was thinking. I must have been 18 or 19 at the time and decided to embark on a full restoration, which I think I just
because you were still driving it like when we were.
Yeah, I was 18 at the time.
When did you take it off the road?
I reckon I only drove it for 2 or 3 years. Maybe it was 19 or 20 or something.
I reckon you would have been old because Ruth and I were dating at that point. So
second year of university. So what would that have been? 07 it would have been. Yeah. And in the end, I remember stripping it and like everything, just completely underestimated what's actually involved in restoring a car, which is a hell of a lot of work and expense.
Yeah.
And I remember the body we took it to Mr. Ed's paint and panel. He was a dodgy body guy in Mount Bark that actually did good work for a good money, but he everything else in his life was a catastrophe as well. And he was very good. And I remember we unloaded the shell from the trailer and he's standing there and it was just going to be a repaint at the time. We were just going to repaint it. And he looked and he's like, do you want to do this? And I was like, well, yeah, I've brought the shell to you. And he looks, he's like, no, do you want to do this? Because we're going to have to do it properly. And I was like, yeah, of course. And then he walks in to his workshop and he comes back with a hammer. And he looks at the seal, the driver's seal, and he taps it with the hammer and the entire seal just caved. And it was all bog and rusted. And he's like, all right, we're doing this properly. And then,
what went through your head doing that?
It's like, oh my God, what have I done? I was like, so it had new seals. To be fair, actually, compared to your 124, it actually wasn't too bad. It was just the seals and a few bits, so it wasn't too bad. But then went through various iterations of getting it fits and starts. I'd, lose motivation on the project, then get it back and do a couple of months. And then, so after 4 or 5 years of this, and then we, Dad and I built a hot motor for it, which was, I think we learned a lot. One thing I think we learned a very lesson that I can't build an engine to save myself, but my dad can, and he had built some good engines. So we're like, okay, and I got these forged pistons, and we tried to do all this fancy machining.
It was like stuff from like a couple of different places, wasn't it? It wasn't like you went to one place and said, give me a kit for a 1500 X19 motor, and thank you very much.
Pistons from here, head from here, rods from here,
cams from here.
Yeah, carbies from here. It was a nightmare. And in the end, I think we did two engines. It blew up on the dyno once. It blew a head gasket at Malala on the first time I took it out to the racetrack. I got a lap and a half or 2 laps or something, and then it blew a head gasket. And then I
remember behind you, like on the first drive, staying behind you, we're out the back near like Birdwood or somewhere like that, and we were going up a hill, and all I could hear the whole time was just tinging of the motor, just detonating hard. It was just
actually. I'm going to go back. You mentioned head gaskets. One of my favorite automotive memories actually was in that car when in year 12 at school. So this is before the restoration, still on its original engine and all this. And it was year 12, supposed to be studying. And I was like, I need to go for a drive after school one day. So I took it out the road between, for those in South Australia that know, between Nan and Kanmantoo. It's a beautiful, fast stretch of road, which really, like, in a GT3 at warp speed is a beautiful bit of road. But the X19, you could drive it at flat and not even use half of the road. It's a great road. It's a great road. Yeah. And I remember coming up behind a slow car, and the passing lane came up, so back to third, and I passed him, and as I was pulling back in it, flat in third, the head gasket let go and just showered him in steam. Like, at the back of the car, I couldn't see anything. Coasted down the hill, stopped, and then at the time, my year 12 teacher lived at the town where I was going to, and this is after school, and she drove past me stock on the side of the road with steam pouring out the back of this Porsche. And the next day she's like, "You should have been at home studying. Why were you out driving?" I don't know. Anyway,
I was on my way to do field research for that project.
Yeah, really doing something like that. It's been good. So fast forward.
Fast forward. So engine blew a couple of times. You end up getting it right.
Got it right. Got someone to do it who really knew what they were doing, and it's been great actually. And now the thing sits in my long suffering parents' shed, and whenever we're at home back in Australia, my dad gets it out and he keeps it running and serviced, and I drive it for a week or two, and I give it back with a list of problems, and he lovingly spends the following 6 to 10 months sort of going through and fixing them, and then I come back. So it's cool. It's very cool.
Well, it's a pretty cool bit of kit. I mean, I've driven the car a few times now, and it's definitely very different from a standard X19. Like,
it's a bit rubbish, but it's
no. It's nice in its own way. It's nice in like a weekend car kind of way. It's not going to be a compliant, everyday car, because it just kills itself in traffic and stuff like that. But I mean, once you're out and you're on it and you're through the hills, it is just phenomenal. Yeah. It's just beautiful car.
I miss it a lot.
Does it make you upset?
It is.
You should ship it over. Ship it to the UK.
I've got a plan. I don't think we're scheming another automotive plan actually. So grander than that. So, but no, I did have plans to try and bring it over for a summer. Just bring it over for 6 months, but by the time you go to the cost of doing it, it really needs a few more things done to it before I would, go to the trouble of it needs to be sorted, and it needs another 5,000-10,000 spent on changing a few things before I'd want to do that, and I just not a priority. But yeah, other plans anyway have taken their place. So we'll see. Anyway,
and that's kind of, I guess, both of our early experiences with cars and stuff. We were very fortunate that we kind of had almost semi-iconic cars now, like X19's mid-engine baby Ferrari, kind of really cool experience. The 124 was like leaps and bounds ahead of its time, like 4 discs, 5-speed box, twin cam, dual throat carby, like it, compared to my mate's cars back in the day. Like one of our close friends, Julian, who actually inherited a 240 from his dad. He had a 240. My mate had a Mustang 289 3-speed. Another mate had a VL Como. Another mate had a Gemini, and like we used to kind of go driving together a fair bit. And like the 124 was just so much nicer in terms of driving experience, and had brakes that worked and gearbox that was beautiful and tight and sounded great. And like when you look back at the car of the era and that time, like they were just so far ahead of everything else that was out.
Well, the reason I bought the X19 was because back then, and I still do, I absolutely love Ferraris of the 50s, 60s, and 70s. I just in love with them. And I remember looking at this X19 going like, hang on a minute, it was designed by the same guy that designed the Miura and the Countach and all of this stuff. It was made at Bertone. It was made at Bertone. It was made in the same factory by the same people.
Probably on like Friday afternoons, though. Must have been one thing.
But it was designed by the same people. It was made in the same factories by the same people, and it shared some parts with these cars. And I was like, this is just the most incredible thing as a first car. But but back to my point that they are just a bit shit. Like I remember doing the restoration of the X19, and it's obviously mid-engine, so it has a shift rod that runs from the gear selector, the lever back to the gearbox. And when we were stripping the car down, I was a bit dismayed to, I pulled the console out for the first time, and in the transmission tunnel, like between the seats in the cockpit, someone had hacked. I was a bit disappointed. Someone had hacked a, just used an air hacksaw or an air grinder, and they'd hacked this like rectangular shape out of the bit, and it had sharp edges and it was rusting. And I was a bit disappointed that someone previously had hacked his car. I was like, damn. And then I looked at another one, and it had the same thing, but it was done in a slightly different way. And then I've seen them all, and they've all got this, And then when we were stripping the car to restore it, I worked out that this shift rod is, over 1 meter long. And if you slide it out the back, you can't get it out the engine bay end because there's not clearance through the chassis. So you have to take it out the cockpit end. And when you slide it up, it comes out through this gap that's been cut in the transmission tunnel. And I realized that what they did was they built the chassis and then on the production line worked out that they couldn't actually get the shift rod into the chassis. So there was somebody who literally just got there with an air hacksaw going, cutting like a massive rectangular bit out of these cars. And they've got sharp edges on them. And then
hey, Francisco, what is this here? I can't get it out. Don't worry, just cut it out of here. It doesn't matter. You can imagine that. Some guys on the corner sitting there, some old bloke is sitting on the corner of the production line, having his grappa, right? Having a sit down, young apprentice, and he's like, just cut it out. And
then you look to this 911 I've been around of the same era, and it's just so orderly and beautiful, and it's just you just could never imagine. But I guess to be fair, the Italian cars have that kind of Brio personality to them, the way they rev out and the way they drive and the way they feel. That's what makes them special. And I guess it's that same attitude of the German cars are a bit more staid and a bit more reserved. So I guess the nature comes out in them. But
I guess for me it's I got brought up on Italian cars, probably similar to you with your dad, and just I guess the passion and the joy that you get behind those wheels is just amazing. Like you can't really find much else that delivers what Italian cars deliver, which is pretty cool.
And I think the cool thing is now, if you look at values pre-coronavirus, who knows what's going to happen to the values of classic and supercars now. I mean, I've been reading some things, I don't know if, but I think that is finally starting to be recognized. Alpha 105s are worth real money, or the old
Did you see one the other day was 200 grand in Australia? I mean, that was just mind-boggling to me. Like,
as they say, it's an unrepeatable opportunity. It is, find another one and I guess you pay for it.
But the car's been painted. Like, it's not like it's original. Like, I'll bring it up because it's a whole nother world. Because
but yeah, it's no better than a restored and driven. To be fair, it's probably not as nice as a nicely restored and driven.
Well, it's a pretty low mile one. I mean, the color's stunning. Like, I really like these kind of like oddball, non-red Italian cars.
The blue violet kind of color, Azzurro Lamar, I think they called it. But
because my dad's got a 105 that was his second car he bought. He's actually got a really interesting story about how he came to like Italian cars. And so he's got a dark blue one with cream interior, and that's just stunning. But again, oddball colors, same type of thing. But yeah, this thing here, it's had a respray and it's done, but it's
what are they asking?
209, which man, far out.
Viewers
better be filled with like cocaine in the boot or something. Like
that's £110,000 for an Alpha 105 Coupe,
and it's not a GTA. That's the other thing too. Like I know GTA money is starting to get expensive, but man,
I mean, it is.
You could probably buy like a rusty out shell, send it to Alphaholics. You could probably build an Alphaholics one for close.
Yeah. You'd get along a lot.
You get a long way on a standard one. I'm not talking about like GTA crazy spec thing with titanium arms and all that kind of stuff.
But I guess it comes down to the thing. Like good luck to them if they can move that. I think that's fantastic.
Well, it's done 9,000 miles.
It's the right thing. It's like
nothing.
To someone who really wants that car, you'll never find another one. It's completely unrepeatable. And yeah, of course, it's is it worth 210 grand? Probably not. But I mean, if you're the kind of person that wants a 10,000 mile original 105 in your collection, like where else are you going to find one? So
yeah, you're not, because they've all been driven, because they weren't worth crazy money.
No,
like I remember 105s going really cheap because we've had Alphas in the family and we've been in the Alpha Club similar to you. Like we've seen all those cars exchange hands half a dozen times, and you know, they were never really.
Yeah.
I mean, the Alpha Club people loved them because they are a stunning car to drive and they look beautiful. They sound beautiful. Again, similar of my 124 of the era, disc brakes, dual carb Webers or Delortos and twin cam motor and, you know, just stunning things. But like they weren't worth anything. And now they're getting expensive, like getting really expensive.
My tip, I reckon, my prediction, I think the same thing is going to happen to Mazda MX-5s, early MX-5s. I think at the moment they do have a very bad image, and I know a lot of people, arguably almost myself included, you know, don't want one just because of kind of all of the baggage that comes with. But objectively, as a car, they are fantastic. And I nearly bought one the other week for £1,000, and this thing drove perfectly. The paint was a bit rough, but it had no rust, and it drove. It was the best driving MX-5 I've had. It was a beautiful car, £1,000. And I think now we don't appreciate them because of what they represent and because of what they cost. But I reckon in another 20 or 30 years' time, I think they will be the Alpha 105, where we'll all be looking back and they'll be worth crazy money. And we're going,
why did I chop that up? Why did I throw that in the bin? Like Dad's 105, he had a little bit of rust just on the rear quarter, just behind the driver's door. And he's got this piece of a 105 that he went to the wreckers and went, I've got rust in this area. I need this bit. Angle grinder just cut the chassis apart. And it's like, you look back at that now and you go, that chassis would be worth, like, just as a chassis would be worth like 20, 30,000 Australian. Like, you know.
Yeah. I think that'll happen. I think that'll happen because people eventually will go, hang on a minute, this is a really well-designed, stout, fun sports car that actually, if you look at it, is a really important car in the history of the automobile. It's a landmark car. It's a landmark design. It's, you know, all of the boxes that our alleged collector cars tick today, you know, in terms of being landmarks of design, an important car, a good car, fun to drive, usable, you know, all of these boxes that we tick now, MX-5 ticks all of those boxes.
Yeah, but you need to get over that whole hairdresser, like middle-aged woman driving it thing first. Like that still needs to.
But remember though, I can remember a time when I was younger when 911s weren't that cool. Like 911s were an investment banker, broker, kind of stockbroker sort of car that certainly didn't have the kind of hipster fanfare that goes along with them today. That wasn't a thing. And I think a similar thing, maybe not the same, but I think a similar thing.
Well, I mean, they've got a pretty huge following as it is anyway. We've been involved in producing some work. Yeah. The MX-5 Club, we did a MX magazine for their 25 years. And like, I know we've got MX-5 people in Australia and things like that, but the UK is like another level. Like, how many people went to that event?
They had a couple of thousand MX-5s turn up. Just MX-5s, a couple of thousand of them. I think there's 2,000, 2,000 or 3,000 or something like that. So yeah, it's serious stuff. And I don't know, I do like him still. There's something about a car that you don't need to worry about, that you don't need to stress about. You can just turn the key and drive. Maybe it's because I don't know how to work on cars much, and I don't really, you know. Maybe I like the idea of a maintenance free sports car that you can just go and rag without worrying too much. I don't know, but I think they're cool. But anyway, we'll see. So.
We'll see. Tune in 30 years time to revisit values of MX-5s. Oh, there you go. Busby's just put up something. MX-5 greater than 911.
I go 911 at the moment.
Well, so. I mean, you're both kind of ex-MX-5 owners, so I can see that.
Yeah. So no, I think they're good. I think you need to do a few things to them. I think the driving position is a bit weird. I think you need to drop them. They're a bit floaty, but all of this stuff is cheap to fix, and you've got a great usable bulletproof car. I'm going to go and start looking at the bloody classifieds. I might ring that one's still available. I think I've sold myself into it now. So.
Well, I mean, you've bought a bit of stuff lately. You've got yourself a new mountain bike and a few bits and pieces, which is pretty cool.
You need stuff to do during this lockdown. You know, I was like, I got this bike to restore and ride around, and I was like, if you're ever gonna buy a project to do, now's the time to do it. So
it's hard. You know, you can't see your friends and stuff and catch up like you usually would and waste time sitting around talking junk.
Well, bike apart and polish it and put it back together.
Yeah, pretty much, which is pretty cool. What else you got? You got anything else?
No, I think we're good. I think maybe I was just gonna touch on what's coming up in Sportscar Safari issue 3 because I'm actually very excited about it. I think it's going to be really cool. I realize we haven't done a magazine for a while, and I know that.
Sorry, Harvey.
Sorry, Harvey.
Harvey keeps bugging us about it.
I think actually the reason I'm so excited is basically we've cherry picked the best stories we've sort of found since we've done issue 2 and put them all into this issue. And really, I don't think there's a story in there that I think is a filler or a space at all. I think it's
No, we had to like cut some stuff that was really cool to kind of fit the other stuff in just because it was so nice.
Yeah, I guess we can share a bit. You know, we've got
Yeah, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to just share a couple of the photos, or do you want me to?
Yeah, share some photos. Share a handful of the photos for anyone's watching, and we can do our best job to sort of say them, and then I guess we can wrap the podcast up shortly. But
do you want to go one from each story?
Yeah, let's do it. Why not? Let's do it.
When in Rome.
Yeah. So
we'll get a couple up.
Yeah. But no, it's good. It's I think this issue, I don't know about you, Luke, but for me it's definitely become more of a I've actually enjoyed doing it because we haven't been under such a time pressure for it. We've just kind of done it in our spare time and done it at our own pace, and I've actually really enjoyed putting it together. It's been really enjoyable.
Yeah. I guess
design and the layout, which I realize is probably not as as
no, it is. I mean, we've also got some content for some people that we haven't shot as well in this magazine, which is always nice to see. And I guess part of my benefit of being the one who puts it all together is being able to churn through everything and really have a hard think about what's going in and really get to really analyze every single picture and go through it and get like from someone who wasn't there, the feeling and the story from the pictures, which is really cool. So one of the ones we've got actually, let me just bring,
because I guess that's the thing is like, yeah, if you're not there, you know, every time you can only realistically use 6 or 8 photos from a shoot or from an event in the magazine. Realistically, by the time you give them space to breathe, and it's sometimes we come up with 80 or 90 photos that all should be published.
yeah. I'll just bring up. This is from our first story, which is going in there.
Yep. So this one, Derek Tamscott, our friend out in San Francisco, did the most amazing thing. He did absolute dream. He realized a dream of collecting. Him and his brother, they went halves and they bought a 991 GT3 Touring, and they collected it from the Porsche factory in Stuttgart and did a road trip around Europe in it. So yeah, that story from Derek is just I was almost speechless reading it. It's a very cool piece of writing.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. And the next one is one that people probably really already know about anyway. If you've been on Instagram and you've seen it.
So this is Jordan Roddy, who was on talking about the XJR 15s on the podcast the other week. This is the full story of his Murcielago RGT restoration, discovery, restoration. It's in typical Geordie fashion, turned around in the space of a few months.
No, it's ridiculous.
6 weeks, really. Six weeks.
Oh, it was ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, just the story is phenomenal for him. And it is really good because it was really good to get his words on it. He heavily edited the conversation that you guys had, and I thought it was a really good representation of the scale of the build and the blood, sweat, and tears and the sacrifice that went into it. Because I mean, and I guess it's a symptom. It's a symptom of Instagram world. Really, is like you see this picture. Oh wow, that's great. Thinking that whatever the things just happened overnight, but my goodness, like.
Geordie is
the work that goes into his stuff is phenomenal.
Has not had a heart attack and killed over lack of sleep
or stress.
I don't know. Like I can do, I'll do 1 or 2 all-nighters and I'm dead. Geordie did 6 weeks of pretty much all-nighters, getting 2, 3, 4 hours a night sleep, if that, in between, spending 18, 19 hours a day working on this car for 6 weeks straight. It's just, the tale is, it's something that he did share a little bit through his Instagram. During it, you just see the speed, the pace at which this car was built, but to actually hear it from him is, it's.
Oh, just got suspension arms back from being tested, and I just got the fuel cell over from the UK, and it's crazy.
And the problems he faced on that project. So we're looking here. It's a photo from our friend Felix and Bryce. They went out to Lake Gardner Speed Week, which is an event that I don't know about you, Luke. I've always wanted to go, and I'm
so want to go.
I haven't made it out there yet, but they went out.
They're actually trying to get rid of some of their merch because it was their anniversary this year. And that whole stack of merch print, I saw that they were trying to get rid of some of it. But this is basically Salt Fat Racing in northern South Australia, on a
very
northern South Australia. And it's basically Australia's Bonneville, which is pretty cool. There's some pretty interesting machines and some cool stuff. I still think Bryce needs to get his Hijet out there and set a world record for, like, I don't know, 200cc utes or something like that. whatever it is that he's got.
It has worked out. There is a record that remains unset. So I think he just needs to get out there, comply with the rules, and then
I think he needs a cage or something, which is a little bit prohibitive of what he was doing.
The thing can't go that quickly, but no. Felix's words in that story is very cool for someone who doesn't profess at all to be a writer and doesn't write. I think he's put a very entertaining story together, which I
definitely. I enjoyed reading it, and I enjoyed he shot the pictures that I used out of it. He shot on film and have some pretty cool feel and look and feel. It's just
filter.
It's just like
that was very cool. So what do we got next? Sherry Lynn Spider in Sydney. She's just a really cool girl. Comes from a family of Italian car lovers. They've got a great collection of cars, and this is her Spider that she gets out in. And we met up in Sydney and went for a drive, and it was just just a really cool, just a really well sorted Spider. Just it's nothing outlandish or crazy. Just a really well dialed in Spider that gets used regularly. So
I guess that goes back to our coming of age of these 105 series alphas. That they're coming to their own and people are recognizing them for what they are, and it's just a cool bit of kit now. So
so that was good. We've both her brother and her father have Maserati Meraks, so Meraks. So and they've restored them themselves once again, complete all the work done themselves. Bodywork, paint, the whole thing, and so that would be a story once to get them together. Of course, Luke, this is yourself. You can talk about this one.
Not overly bad. We managed to intercept Sam from Seen Through Glass on his world tour, and super lovely guy, and allowed us the time of day on his way out of Adelaide to shoot him on some Australiana scenes and roads, which was pretty cool, getting the thing out in the dirt, doing some launches and stuff. It's pretty cool. We did shoot that a while ago. So
obviously his trip's now ended, and I think he might have even sold the car by now.
No, he's still got it. He's
still got it.
He's doing something else with it.
But
that's pretty cool. That was good fun. And I mean, just you see these personalities on the internet and YouTube and everything, and it was really good to, I guess, see the people behind him and meet him and just see how humble and nice he actually is, which is just a credit to him.
I wrote the story for that. So Luke did the photos and met him, and I from London interviewed him over the phone, and just a really friendly guy though. I think it comes across in the channel, but his YouTube channel, but he's just super enthusiastic, passionate, really friendly guy, and out sort of scrapping to do some pretty awesome things. I mean, the guy's I mean, he's driven a Renault Formula One car. He's done some insane things around the world. And now this world tour in his 911, and it's all literally through hard work. I guess, actually the thing I took away from meeting, talking to Sam is just the work ethic in that Drive the World project and what he does. We know through putting this magazine together that it's not easy to sit down and get this stuff done. And Sam's on the road putting out 3-4 videos a week, plus filming, plus arranging everything, plus planning the
meeting with fans and people. Like, my goodness.
Like we know, like, each of these photo shoots, it's a 4 or 5 hour thing. By the time you drive there, you meet someone, you wait for the sunrise or the sunset. It's a big thing. And he did this on end for months and months and months without letting up. Like that itself is,
it's huge. Anyway, moving on.
So, Gravier Cycle Collective.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Once again, Dan Collins at Jarvis arranged us to borrow of a Skoda Octavia VRS. It's a really cool family car. If you need one, it's as you know in the story, but we took it out and obviously Skoda with their sponsorship of the Tour de France cycling, they're very heavily as a brand involved in cycling. So we thought it would be cool to get involved with this Adelaide cycle team. And I don't know, it was a pretty rough premise, but we went out for a training ride. We really just involved us having coffee and going and having a bit of a hoon in the hills. But
and being able to stick cars on the bikes on top of the cars and riding road bikes with skinny tires on dirt. It was the best.
Yeah, it was good. But that Octavia, like for such a it's not I don't think it's something you'd buy as your only performance car. It's not that sort of thing. But as a car to like a practical family car that can swallow, like they took an entire road bike without wheels on, seat on, the whole thing. Popped it in. More spacious than wagons. And it's got the mechanical package from the Mark 7 GTI performance in it. It's a quick car, and it's just probably one of the best all-rounders I think I've ever driven, really.
It was good fun. Not something I was expecting from driving it anyway. Like,
no,
it was definitely a cool thing. And then the other one we've got.
Well, I was very, very spoiled.
Very spoiled on that one, but that's okay.
Yeah, no, we went to Dubai. I do some travel.
You.
Literally, I was behind my computer one day and just working away, and an email pops up. The little window box pops up, and the subject was an invitation to a luxury hotel in Dubai to drive the Aston Martin range.
Did you delete that email, or did you just?
I'm like, nah, this doesn't happen. And then so it was great. So
wasn't some relative leaving you like 30 million pounds or something? African relative or something?
No, it was literally exactly what it says in the tin. It was, I guess we can say I didn't want to put too much into the story, but it was because it was part of a wider piece I did for some other outlets as well. And it was, my other, obviously for Sportscaster Safari, the story was more car focused, automotive focused, whereas I was really there with Waldorf Astoria Hotels for a travel publication. It was sort of more based on the experience in the hotel, and this was one of the things they offered. But it was incredible. That probably the bit they flew us from Heathrow to Dubai. They flew us business out there, and then they had this, I didn't even know this existed, they had this meet service at Dubai airport where we got off the plane, and literally as you step off the plane, not even into the terminal, off the plane into the aero bridge, there was a guy standing there with a little sign with my name on it, and the other people on our trip were like, okay. And then, they took us down the stairs onto the tarmac, and they had 7 Series BMWs waiting there to drive us personally to like a private, I didn't even know this existed.
You didn't even have to go through the terminal.
No, don't go through private processing area. They look through, you met with someone, they had a coffee there for you, they take your passport, they handle immigration. So you just go and sit down, and they've got Wi-Fi and bathrooms and snacks and coffee and that. And then 10, 15 minutes later, they come back with your passport and your bags that they've got off the plane, and they say, there you go. And then you out the door, and you're out into the outside the airport, and you just drive straight out. Don't even go to the terminal.
I wonder if that's going to exist anymore.
Dude, it will exist.
It'd be a shame. Yeah, I know. That's got it like mental. Yeah, that's crazy. Anyway, next one before we wrap it up.
Cool. And then now this is obviously GP Ice Race in ZLMC, and now just looking at that was pretty much. I mean, I did a trial, but that was basically the last major event I went to. Really, that was back in February. And yeah, obviously a recreation of the ice racing on the frozen lake at LMZ, where they obviously do skijoring, where they tow a speed skier behind a car, and it's a course marked out on a frozen course, and they obviously set time trials with the skiers behind cars, and they had classics and modern stuff. They had cup cars on snow tires. They had the new 935 on snow tires. There was an Alpha 8C. They had Hans Stuck drove his March. I think it was the Jägermeister livery, the March 731 that he made his debut at the Monaco Grand Prix in 1974. They'd converted that. It was the most insane thing to run on ice, and they'd actually built on the rear wheels a dually setup. So instead of having a like a 13-inch wide studded snow tire, which obviously doesn't exist, they built this hub adapter to go on to the hubs, which had a dually setup. So they had two sort of 6-inch wide studded snow tires on this thing. It was just, to be fair, it was not that well suited. I think it didn't run the first time because it was too cold. I think they couldn't get the engine to run. It was just too cold for the cold motor to run and that. But to be fair, cool event. It was just about going and seeing it and being cold and drinking beer and taking photos. Good. Really.
Sounds like a terrible way to spend a weekend.
I know, terrible. So anyway.
Yeah. So we're working on that. We're kind of in final stages of proofing now, so we're not too far away from that printed. And given the state in Australia, we're still going to have printers open and still things happening. So industry, the government's pretty keen to get things back open again and get people working. So
yeah, exactly. So
cool.
Well, better.
We survived it.
We survived it. Back the first team show ourselves, hey?
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments if it's been woefully boring. If you're still here at this point, I guess it's been okay. But
thanks for enduring.
Thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll obviously we've got some more guests planned coming up. We just thought we'd do one ourselves to give you an update of sort of what's happening. Got some cool guests.
Find a little bit about us too. I know I enjoy that when I'm listening to people, finding out about what they do and what makes them tick, which is pretty cool. But yeah, we'll have this up on Spotify and YouTube, Spotify and Apple Podcasts pretty soon.
Yep.
So you can listen to it and tune in.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Luke, it's been real. It's been a dream. We'll talk soon.